The World War II was a dark time in the history of humanity, but the war had a silver lining to it. It gave birth to the second largest car manufacturer in the world. We're talking about none other than the people's car company, Volkswagen. Today, for the 7.6 billion people living on planet Earth, there are approximately 1.4 billion cars on the road. Cars have become a necessity and a dominant means of transportation in today's society, but this wasn't always the case. In the early 1930s, cars were an extravagant luxury. Owning a vehicle back then was a status symbol, and this was especially true in early Nazi Germany. Back then, only 1 in 50 Germans could afford a car, and most of the German population could afford nothing more than a motorcycle. Seeing this gap in the market, German companies started leaning towards the idea of a small and affordable family car. For instance, a small German company by the name of Hanomag started mass manufacturing the 210 PS in 1925. The 210 PS was a small and cheap rear-engined vehicle that was often mocked as it looked like a loaf of bread. During the same time, Ferdinand Porsche, who was a renowned car designer known for designing high-end vehicles and race cars, saw high potential in small family cars. Porsche wanted manufacturers to pursue this idea, but upon failing to get any company to believe in his vision, he went on to design the Volksauto. The Volksauto was a car that Porsche designed from the ground up. It consisted of an air-cooled engine, a torsion bar suspension, and featured the shape of a beetle, which meant that the front bonnet was rounded for better aerodynamics. We encourage you to not forget about the word beetle, and you'll why it is of significant importance later down the video. When 1934 came around, Adolf Hitler rose to power. Germany, which was now well and under the infamous Nazi scheme and was in desperate need of a small vehicle. This is where Hitler got involved with the German automobile industry. Hitler wanted a car that every German family would be able to afford. Hitler ordered the production of a basic vehicle that was capable of carrying 2 adults and 3 children at a speed of 100 kilometers per hour. Though it seemed unrealistic, Hitler was convinced on the idea of selling this car at 990 Reichsmark, which was the approximate cost of a small motorcycle at the time. However, it soon became very evident that private manufacturers just couldn't make a profitable vehicle for 990 Reichsmark. Hitler had enough and decided to open up a state-funded factory and use Ferdinand Porsche's design to build a car. In fact, Hitler himself had ideas that he wanted to implement in the vehicle's design, like an air-cooled engine so that the vehicle would be functional even in the winter. Hitler also came up with a saving scheme through which German families could afford the vehicle, and the scheme's intention was to make people save 5 marks each week and save up for the car. The company for the preparation of the German Volkswagen Limited was finally established on 28th of May, 1937. In the same year, the construction of a new factory also began in the town of Wolfsburg, as it is now known. One of the members of Porsche's hand-picked team members and the chief designer of the long-standing auto union, Erwin Komenda, developed the body of one of Volkswagen's first and most iconic vehicles, the Beetle. The Beetle was one of the first cars designed with the help of a wind tunnel, something that was only used to manufacture German fighter aircrafts at that time. In typical German fashion, the vehicles were also put through 1 million miles of rigorous testing before they were completed. When World War II began, Volkswagen had to pause the production of family vehicles and shift its focus to the production of military vehicles. Germany was in a dark spot back then. Using slave labor from concentration camps for the production of goods was a common practice. Volkswagen admitted in 1998 that it had used around 15,000 slaves during the wartime, which was approximately 80% of the company's workforce back then. The company would later go on to set up a restitution fund for the forced laborers. In 1945, Volkswagen's manufacturing plant was heavily bombed by the U.S. Armed Forces, and it was handed over to the British as the factory fell under their occupation zone. As the war came to an end, the company was renamed to Volkswagen as we know it today. By 1946, the factory was churning out around 1,000 vehicles a month. The company was offered to companies from America, Australia, Britain, and French motor industries, but they all rejected the offer, claiming that it wasn't worth anything. In March 1948, the company was offered to Ford free of charge. However, Ford rejected the offer too, and VW was left to rebuild itself on its own and would later become one of the giants of the auto industry, as you'll see. In 1948, Heinrich Nordhoff, who was a former senior manager at another German automobile company called Opel, was hired to run the VW's factory. Nordhoff, who had overseen civilian and military vehicle production in the 1930s and 40s, had years of experience under his belt and was the right person to rebuild the Volkswagen company. Over the years, the production of Volkswagen's most recognizable vehicle, the Beetle, or officially known as the Type 1, increased exponentially, reaching a total of 1 million units in 1955. The company started shipping vehicles to the USA and Canada, and to keep up with increasing sales figures, a 32-acre plant was built in 1957. If you're enjoying the video so far, make sure to hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel to not miss out on these educating yet entertaining videos. Now let's see how the company progressed through the 1960s, which was a crucial time in the world of automobiles. As the years passed by, the Beetle's design was getting outdated. However, Germans being Germans had an excellent reputation for building reliable cars. This, paired with witty advertising and imports to America, meant that the Beetle would go on and surpass the Ford Model T for the most produced single make of a car in history. This was a major feat for VW, as they were even rejected by Ford in 1948. Volkswagen reached a total production of 16 million units in 1973. Volkswagen couldn't rely on a single make of vehicle now, so in 1961, the company expanded its product line with the introduction of the Type 3 and the larger Type 4 in 1969. These vehicles had impressive features like a unibody construction, a fully automatic transmission, electronic fuel injection, and a more powerful engine. The company would also acquire the Auto Union, the company which owned Audi, and the NSU Motorenwerke, and ultimately merged them to create the modern Audi brand we know and love today. Audi would become Volkswagen's luxury line of vehicles. But things weren't all sunshine and rainbows for the company now. The Type 3 and Type 4 did not meet expectations and sold in much smaller numbers than the Beetle. The company was starting to lose popularity in the North American and European markets. VW knew that they had to find a successor to the Beetle, but did not know how. This is where Audi's expertise in front-wheel drive vehicles with water-cooled engines came into play. With Audi's help, the company was able to pave way for its new generation of vehicles, some of which are still produced today: the Golf, Polo, Scirocco, and the Passat. One of modern Volkswagen's most successful models, the Golf, emerged in 1974. The hatchback was designed by Giorgetto Giugiaro and had angular styling, a front-mounted engine, front-wheel drive, and was a perfect small car replacement for the Beetle. To date, the Golf has been the mechanical basis for many other VW vehicles. The Volkswagen Scirocco Sport Coupe, Volkswagen Jetta Sedan, Volkswagen Golf Cabriolet Convertible, and Volkswagen Caddy Pickup were all designed from the chassis of the Golf. In the late 1990s, the company started manufacturing diesel-engined cars with TDI technology. TDI stands for turbocharged direct injection and is known for providing class-leading fuel economy. However, in 2007, the U.S. government emissions regulations forced VW to drop most of its diesel engines. These days, the company has shifted its focus to EVs and promised that it'll launch at least 30 EVs by 2025. The company went as far as announcing in 2021 that it would stop developing new internal combustion engines from the ground up and would just keep tweaking existing engines. Today, Volkswagen is the second largest manufacturer of vehicles in the world. The Volkswagen Group owns Skoda, Seat, Cupra, Audi, Lamborghini, Bentley, Porsche, and Ducati, and over 120 production plants across the globe. It is an undisputable giant in the automobile industry, and though the company emerged as a product of Nazi Germany, the company has put its dark history behind it and moved on to dominate the world with some of the most iconic vehicles in history. What do you think of Volkswagen as a brand? Have you owned any vehicle from the VW Group? Let us know in the comments down below. If you think that the story of Volkswagen started from humble roots and now becoming the king of the auto industry is inspiring, we can guarantee that you'll like the story of the king of social media, TikTok. What started off as a news app to cater to Chinese citizens, TikTok is now the most downloaded app in the world with millions of dollars in revenue. Make sure to check out our video on the rise of the social media giant next. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.